Is it a wham bam 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 bam
bam? Hit the drum roll.
Get your seat back, straight tails up, red lock position. Here we go. It is Tuesday night. Gonna have some fun. Gonna do some things. Scuba on a ride tonight. We're gonna talk about some things. Talk about some movies, some games,
games, shows, and an eclectic list of news items.
Yeah, we do have a little bit. We got some odds and ends. We got state of game. We got what's up. We got
fireside chat.
All those little things that go on.
The itty bitties of the nitty gritties that is known as the interwebs.
Yes, yes. So hey, thanks for coming to hang out with us. Thanks for checking out this video. If you like what you're seeing, please be sure to give a like, leave a comment, and hit the little bell notification and subscribe. All of the things here on YouTube to feed the algorithm. Mayflower, good evening. How are you today?
What's going on in the chats? Chatty chats.
Everybody in the chat, feel free to shout out, pipe in, all those fun things. Gonna try and do some interaction. Of course, we'll have a point. We'll probably take some questions. We'll talk state of game. I got a couple of interesting topics I wanted to chit chat about tonight.
Go with the flow. I just follow, you lead, or
that's what we do. We go with the flow. We go with the flow. We do it things. We're gonna have some fun. It's February. Here we go. Here we go. All right, right. What have you been up to, my man? Here's our first segment, which is our What's Up, what we've been doing.
What has been happening?
How have we spent the last week?
We did get some snow. We did get some snow. It was here and it was gone. That is typical Virginia weather. It's here and it's gone. But other than that, I have been just dealing with the school stuff, lots of reading, lots of writing, doing prepping for my independent research project, because for the 500 level students, which includes me, we have an additional assignment on top of all the other assignments that we have in the class. But hey, that is grad school for you. Training mode at work, just training, learning new things, shadowing people, building up that knowledge so I can be ready for prime time there. But nothing else other than that, other than just kind of blazing through a lot of TV shows. A couple of shows I finished up recently. Vikings, which was season 6 and its final season. So the whole series has been completed. One of the best and underrated shows on television. So if you've never watched it, this is a good time to check it out. Very underrated show, and it's a good compliment to people that like fantasy, like lore, like anything of that nature. Good show. Finished up a Japanese adaptation of a manga on Netflix called Alice in Borderlands. That was really trippy, but it's gotten me trying to find the manga so I can read the rest of the story. Some other shows I finished up, History of Swear Words on Netflix. You can probably figure out what it is, and it was hosted by Nick Cage. Go figure. Sabrina, the last season on Netflix, as well as Bridgerton with my girlfriend Angelica. And then a bunch of anime. I am an anime freak, and in the beginning of every year, they drop a lot of new and amazing anime to watch. One of them is Jujutsu Kaisen. If you don't know the name, check it out on Crunchyroll. Other than that, lots of gaming, lots of schoolwork, just balancing my time between a lot of different things. That's about it, but hey, we get to suffer 6 more weeks of winter. Heard the groundhog saw his shadow today. It is the 2nd.
You see this?
Yeah.
I mean, seriously.
Yeah, but what do you expect?
Sorry, we should just expect 6 weeks of winter.
Winter. Yeah, whatever that means for Virginia winter. But yeah, speaking of Virginia weather, it was just sprinkling, and when I'm driving here, everybody was driving 10 below the speed limit everywhere. In sprinkles. Yeah.
I mean, come on. I mean, not like, Chicago, where it's like blizzard outside, still rolling down the interstate at 90 miles an hour.
Oh yeah, now I know why there's a lot of dents in bumpers in Chicago. I did realize that the one time I went up there.
I've only been up there once, and once was enough.
You don't have to say any more. I understand.
I had 2004. February 2004, when my wife completed Navy boot camp.
Oh yeah.
I flew into Chicago so I could roll up to Great Lakes to attend the graduation.
Mm-hmm.
Got in at like 9 o'clock at night at O'Hare Airport and had to drive through a blizzard to Great Lakes. And I was like, nope, sorry, not enjoying this. But, you know.
The four-letter word is why I moved south. Touche there.
Can't complain. I like the mountains, and I know snow is a part of being in the mountains, but I'm also like, you know what? I can live without it for a little bit. I can appreciate it when I see it, but I can live without it as long as I've got the spaces, because the snow really kind of messed up my whole zen this week.
Oh yeah, it did. We talked about it on the Scuba.
Yep, Sunday mornings,
Yeah.
noon Eastern here on YouTube. I do a live show where I paint miniatures and chit chat. I'm thinking about adding some interview elements if I can talk to some people in the community who want to hang out while I paint a mini and just kind of, chit chat kind of deal. But anyways, so I was prepping up a group of orcs from Reaper Minis,
Mm-hmm.
and I was gonna do a primer, base coat on them before I started painting. Unfortunately, because it had snowed the night before, which was terribly inconvenient.
Terribly.
It's like my paint did not get. I even did the trick with the bowl of hot water, put the can in there so that warms up the can. The air was still so cold,
Way too cold.
that I could not get a good covering over my miniatures. And it was like I tried outside, didn't work. Tried inside on a makeshift painting booth. Didn't work. So it's like, I need to build a proper spray booth at some point this summer so that I could do these wonderful things without having to try and stand outside at the worst weather possible. But, I digress.
It is the way of the world within this atmosphere that we know as Virginia.
But, I thought it was another great funny snow story in the mountains when I was driving to Seattle in 2009. Because I had got this wild, crazy idea that I would drive to Seattle to find a job. Because I wanted to live in the Pacific Northwest. So I got an apartment. I drove out there. I took a gamble, took a risk. And when I drove through like Idaho or whatever, I stopped at a rest stop. And of course, it had been snowing. And I go up to the rest stop and I see a metal pipe in the snow. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. 2 months later, I drive back and I stop at the exact same rest stop. That pipe was the handrail. There was so much snow you could walk at the same level as the handrail. I was like,
wow, I didn't even think. Well, it's possible.
I mean, it was crazy enough. When I rolled into Billings, Montana, it looked like it was spring outside, right? Like green fields, nothing.
Yeah.
Went to bed, woke up, 2 feet of snow on the ground. I'm like, what the did I just walk into? And of course, people up north would be like, yeah, that's like a Tuesday here. So it was like, no big deal. I'm like, all right, fine. I get it. Little southern boy in the north, it's a little weird. But yeah, so yeah, it was a little inconvenient getting miniatures together, but I did get them primed, and I think it added a nice element as I'm working through the painting. I'm going to finish those up this Sunday. Maybe I'll finish them up. Maybe I'll just get further. Who knows? Kind of developing it as I go. Anyways.
Go with the flow.
Yeah, going with the flow. Last week is, I got my Jeep back.
Yes.
I got my Jeep back. I feel very happy I got my Jeep back.
And I had that aha moment when you told me. That same aha moment I had last week.
All right, so I'll let you know. I had 2 vehicles. Then I had 1. Then I got 2, but 1 didn't work. So it was sent over to my brother-in-law's shop, auto shop that he and his dad own, and they fixed it up. And so it was like, okay, it took quite a few weeks to get that kind of situated. But we went on Saturday after I finished Shadow Watch, and we went and picked up the car. So now my wife has her own dedicated car,
Mm-hmm.
and I have my Jeep back. And it's like, great. And it was funny as all get out. Yesterday, I'm sitting here and I'm working through stuff. I found some really great YouTube videos on DaVinci Resolve, which is the program I use for my video editing.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't realize there are features in DaVinci Resolve that I thought I needed this other software to do that. No, I could just spend some time learning and I could do it in DaVinci. I was like, ooh, gonna have to try and work on some of that. But anyways,
practice.
yeah, my daughter comes in and she's like, what are we gonna do for lunch? I'm like, I don't know. What do you want to do for lunch? I don't know what we got. Well, we got sandwiches. Oh, wait a minute. We got a Jeep. I'm like, yeah, we got a Jeep. But you can't eat a Jeep. No, you can't eat a Jeep. Well, we could go out and get food.
Yeah, I guess.
Oh, yeah, I guess we could. I could actually leave the house for the first time in like 6 months during the week without my wife being home because she would take the vehicle to work. So it's like, oh boy, here we go again.
Freedom ring.
So, you know, it's nice to be able to, it's nice to have that option there. But yeah, I got my Jeep back, did some mini painting, did some video training on stuff. And then the usual things, community session for Realm Smith, a lot of fun there. Had the games, that kind of stuff. Even got some video game time in. So I feel quite satisfied that I could actually get some video game time in.
Yeah, that's always good.
But that being said, let's dive into our reviews. We got 2 things we're going to do tonight. We're going to do our movie review for the latest one from Rye Reviews, and we're going to talk about WandaVision episode 4 that dropped last week. So FYI, it's probably a little bit of spoiler stuff going on in there. Just letting you know that up front. And let's dive right in, shall we?
Dive into the mysteries of the crimes and the dramas.
Yeah.
The drama crimes.
Alrighty. So this week we're talking about the latest release with Denzel Washington, Jared Leto, and
Rami Malek.
The Little Things. This is one of the movies that Warner Brothers released on both theatrical release and on HBO Max. So if you have HBO Max, you can check this out there. It'll be available for the next 30 days. And then it'll kind of go away with the rest of the release schedule for films coming out in theater. Or if you happen to have a theater that's open and this is playing, you could go check it out there. But this is an interesting kind of crime drama thriller. Bri, take it away. Tell us about The Little Things.
Yeah, The Little Things, starring 3 big name actors, like you said. And it focuses on a serial killer on the loose in the City of Angels, aka Los Angeles. So what this film does, it pulls together 2 unlikely detectives as they must work together in this case to try to figure out who's the one behind the murders. You have Denzel Washington, who plays Joe Deacon, who is a deputy sheriff who has to travel to Los Angeles to get some evidence for a crime back where he is deputy sheriff in Kent County. Through some convenient plot devices and situational methods, he is introduced to Jim Baxter, who's the lead special detective on this big murder case happening in Los Angeles. And when they come together, it's pretty much a predictable direction of a typical crime procedural drama that you would see in any kind of situation of storytelling, regardless if it's TV or movie. So what this film does is that it pits these 2 characters together, and they're just pretty much trying to solve a crime. There's really not much else to it. In the first half of this film, you're basically following these 2 cops as they're going from scene to scene, investigating the crime scene. They have introspective moments of the crime scenes, and they have moments of exposition where they're talking back and forth. And then each scene pretty much mimics each other, fades to black, and then it just rehashes that same kind of foundational method. Because of that, there's not really any girth or any gravity to the story or what's happening. It's just a straight up procedural drama. It's crime, evidence, trying to put things together, characters talking, or nothing. And it really adds a very lackluster appeal, especially with the 2 big names in the role, Denzel Washington and Rami Malek. You can tell that they are trying their best to add emotional worth to their relationship, but the script is so dry and bare, it makes it make them look like they are just going into an acting class for the first time. It's pretty terrible. Until Jared Leto's character comes into the fray and they suspect him. He plays a guy by the name of Albert Sparma, and they suspect him because of his eeriness of his behavior and his love for this crime. And when he gets introduced into it, the rest of the film turns into a cat and mouse game of is he or isn't he the actual suspect? I think the trifecta between him and the other two characters helps add a little bit of levity to it, and it leads into a third act where it starts to blend the idea of how far, without spoiling it, how far will you go to try to prove the point that, try to make the truth, even if the truth isn't really there. And it leads into a climax that actually lifts the film a little bit, but doesn't really take away from the lethargic kind of journey that you've got from the beginning. Take it away, Scoop.
Yeah, watched this one actually a little bit ago. It was it really kind of made me sit and think at the end of it. This had a very Seven vibe. You
Yes.
remember classic Seven with
Brad Pitt,
Morgan Freeman, and
Kevin Spacey.
yeah. I don't know why the names are spacing on me right now,
No
but
pun intended.
so yeah, it had a very Seven vibe to it, but it also kind of felt like I'd seen these kind of role, specifically Denzel. I've seen this role that he's done in a couple of different films. So this is definitely his bread and butter type of character that we've seen him do. Rami, he's been just sailing and nailing it on the various roles that he's been doing of late. And then of course we have Jared Leto, who, shenanigans aside, gets really kind of in there and really kind of builds a life for the character. Say what you want about method acting methodology.
He's a chameleon.
But it was a very interesting set of characters. But overall, though, the film really wasn't that kind of like, there was suspense, but it wasn't really suspenseful. There was dialogue and there was a lot of things you listen to and there's nuance, but no real payoff in a sense. So the film is pretty good. The film is pretty good in my opinion. It's just, it's not something that is really going to be all that memorable, and it leaves you really kind of asking questions at the end, like, what did I just watch? Or wait a minute, who did what, where, huh?
Yeah, it does a lot of mixing up with the truths, and it does add a spin of morality and questioning of, what you would do for a crime, but because of everything leading up to it, it kind of falls flat on its potential.
The things I do like, they're the elements that I really do like. Regardless, take Jared Leto. Jared Leto's introduction into the film changes the film quite a bit.
Yes, it does.
The other two, though, it's like you're seeing, you're seeing someone. They're both involved with homicide and have a kind of a dedication to solving the crime. But the question that I get afterwards is, okay, how far does that dedication go before it has serious implications on your personal psyche?
Yeah.
And that was a very interesting element to this film. And then there's the whole bit with Jared Leto's character where he's just kind of plucking the strings. And he plucks the string until the point it either snaps or it doesn't. And you're kind of watching that evolve. So while it has a vibe that is very reminiscent of Seven, it is not Seven.
Yeah.
It is not the gravitas of the what's in the box moment we know from Seven. It has a similar tension, a similar kind of thriller vibe, but it's less about the murderer and more about the the direction these cops are going in trying to solve the crime, and that you see kind of a Ghost of Christmas Future with Denzel's character and Christmas Present with Rami's character. And that's a very interesting dynamic that you see kind of develop out throughout the course of the film. But in the end, I think you should go watch it to check it out. Give us your opinions. If you have seen it and whatnot, please leave a comment down below. Let's continue the conversation there. Rye, what did you give this on the Rye review scale?
On the Rye review scale, like I said, little things, it drives a persistent familiarity that gives a mixed bag of results. It was a fun ride, just a hollow experience. It is on HBO Max for 30 days, so if you have that, check it out. It's in theaters to anybody that wants to watch it. Overall, 3 out of 5. Worth seeing at the right price at theater, but it's on HBO Max. Sit down on the couch, check it out.
All right, I'm gonna go 3.5 out of 5. Like I said, it had some moments that on reflection really kind of make it kind of shine, and is a credit to these actors. But definitely go check it out if you theater discount, or check it out on HBO Max and see what's up. So there was that. And now for let's talk about WandaVision episode 4.
We interrupt this program.
Yes. All right, so let you know this is us doing our review and opinion. Spoilers if you have not seen it. It is up on Disney Plus. So you could go check it out there. But I think this is great because this is this feels like a midpoint in the show where it's like we're backfilling elements from the previous 3 episodes.
Oh yes.
And we're changing the perspective, which is great how Marvel is doing this. It's like you think you're going one way and then Marvel goes, "Hey, check this out over here."
Oh yeah. This episode, it actually, instead of just filling in the gaps of the first 3 episodes, it actually goes a little bit further back and actually brings in the introduction of Monica Rambeau and actually the aftermath of the second snap and how everybody came back. So you get to see how she comes into the fray, and also the introduction of Sword and how it plays into all the intricacies that are happening on WandaVision.
Yes, and we see Darcy come back from the Thor franchise. We see the FBI agent from Ant-Man and the Wasp come back, Jimmy Woo, and we start to fill in some of the stuff going on where it's like all these theories that we had on the internet. Watching this is actually getting kind of answered, and it leaves us still with more questions.
That's what I love about this episode. It answered with more questions, and it provided some backdrop on the theories and hints of what was happening, and creates this allure of great storytelling, character development, and also genre bending. Because what you had is the first 3 episodes were very much sitcom-y, cheesy, but there was a very dark satirical tone to it, because not everything was what it seems. This episode took all of that slapstick and flipped it and turned it into a horror. Straight up horror, in my opinion. Especially with all the stuff that Wanda was doing, how she knocked Monica out of the WandaVision, how she saw that illusion of the real Vision, and then just the eeriness of what's to come.
That bit, seeing Vision and that whole kind of jump scare moment, totally was not seeing that coming.
Oh yeah.
And it just added to this, and I'm really wanting to see it. I'm kind of in the same camp of a few people. I think Wanda's having a psychotic break.
Yep.
And that we are poor, unfortunate souls who are trapped in the outcome of that.
Oh yeah.
Which you and I were talking offline. We were talking a bit about this on Sunday, actually.
Yeah.
This is one of the things I love about Marvel characters and how they're grounded, and how Marvel is not afraid to introduce elements that you would almost think, well, these people should be above this. It's like, no, we saw this in Logan. Xavier, in the movie Logan, Xavier was suffering from dementia.
And you saw what happened with that dementia.
Powers. And it's like,
yeah,
I love how the subtle message is mental health is not something to be taken lightly, and that mental health can affect anybody.
Oh yeah.
And and for her though, I mean, she lost her brother, she lost her boyfriend, she got sucked into the nothingness of the blip and then back and then right into the mix of it. So she has not really had time
Mm-mm.
to cope with these because she's an orphan. I mean, a lot of that going in there, and he's like, yeah, she's probably losing it a little bit.
Yeah, and that fractured mentality with her powers, which if anybody knows from the comics, she is one of the strongest characters in the Marvel universe. With that fractured mind and everything, and also maybe hints of other influences, it's not only creating something that is weird to the world that it is the MCU at this point, but it's scary of the ramification that what happens if she goes completely berserk.
Well, I mean, they are saying this is loosely based on the House of M comic line,
Oh, yeah.
where Wanda did reshape reality with no mutants and put Magneto in as king of the world.
Oh yeah.
There's those elements, plus we're introducing and we're seeing things set for long term with the MCU, which is really kind of fascinating.
Oh yeah, it's great because there's a lot of this is another credence to how great Kevin Feige is in mapping and subtly building things. What this show is showing that a shared universe can have interconnected characters and stories, but at the same time being encapsulated in its own. There's a lot of hints. I don't know if you picked up on it when she was talking with her what is his name?
The acting director?
Yeah, Tyler Hayward, when he was talking about the astronauts and getting lost in space. There's theories out there going at that is a plant for the future Fantastic Four movie.
It seems legit.
Mm-hmm. Especially with Sword dealing with intergalactic stuff. You know, everybody knows how the Fantastic Four got their powers and the introduction of the cosmic microwave background stuff. Just little droplings of the first family in Marvel.
Yep. Marvel's first family. But yeah, overall though, this has been really fascinating. We're not diving too much into spoilers because obviously this is live and there's no chance for you to pause, and I don't want you to pause. I want you to stick around and watch this.
And
so we're gonna tease on it, we're gonna dance around it, but straight up, we both really enjoy this.
This is actually my favorite episode of the show so far.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what happens because I want to see the theories about Agatha. I want to see where Dottie falls into this. I want to see if what happens with Vision. Because
what happens with her twins?
Oh, the twins, her moving forward through the decades of television and all of that. It's really fascinating. So can't wait to see that. Episode 5 should be out this Friday here on Disney Plus.
Yep.
So if you haven't watched it, go check it out, catch up, and we'll talk about episode 5 next week.
See you then.
Oh yeah.
On the next episode of the sitcom. I think they're heading into the 70s, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, they should be. Well, they kind of touched on that with the they touched on that a little bit with episode 3.
Yeah.
Because that was very much modeled after like the Brady Bunch.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, we should be getting into the 80s, the 90s, and the 2000s. Remember, there's 9 episodes of this first season. We've gone through 3, so we've had 3 decades up. Now we're gonna run. Now we're gonna run through the next set. So it should be very fascinating.
Be some fun stuff ahead.
But yeah. So next up is State of Game. It's a section where we talk about all the various games we were playing and what we're playing them on. All those fun things, whether it's a video game, a tabletop game, a board game, a mobile game, whatever. Let's talk about games. What are some of your favorite games, or what's some of the games you played last week? But as usual, Rye, take it away with what video games you've been spending your time with.
Well, after the big patch, I decided, heck, let's go do a big deep dive in traversing Night City and Cyberpunk.
Okay.
And I have reached the final mission. So instead of nope, because the second you walk up to the plaza, it tells you once you cross this point, you can't return until you finish. And so it's like, that means let's go do the side quest. So I went and added, put Squirrel Moment on steroids and started doing a lot of the side quests. And quite frankly, this game has jumped up to being really enjoyable. because of the great cast of characters in this game and just the randomness of stuff that you could find. Because doing the side quests, I managed to get a hold of Johnny Silverhand's gun, his Porsche. I got the Mantis arms, which are about to drop a curse word, but very awesome. And I have switched out the blades so they're flame blades. So when I'm fighting people and chopping up, they're burning while I'm slicing them alive. And the one thing I told you, which I told you on Sunday, is I was running down an alley and then I heard a voice, and then I looked to the left and there's a dead body and this gun that was talking to me called Skippy. And I picked up this gun, and basically this is a artificial intelligence pistol that you can set to do 2 different modes, which I set to kill mode. So what happens is when you shoot this gun, it automatically does headshots. So yeah, that was an interesting piece of work that I picked up. But I am thoroughly navigating and enjoying all of Night City. After the latest patch that he dropped, I wasn't having a lot of the glitches before, and it's even a lot more smoother this time around. No drops, no breaks, no nothing. So having fun there. I skipped over the web slinging and decided to jump into Torchlight 3 because it's on Game Pass. Why not? And I love Torchlight 2 like nobody's business. So jumping in this game, getting familiar with it, and I am definitely enjoying it. It is that fun-paced kind of action RPG I liked. Killing monsters, getting tons of loot, and yeah, I haven't gotten too far in the game. But I am level 5. I am one of the mage characters, and that's because I like powers and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, those are the 2 games I've been messing around with.
I've actually got quite a few games I've been playing.
I know.
Let's get into that. All right, so I dusted off my PlayStation 3 and started working my way through the Uncharted franchise. I've only played Uncharted 3, so I never played the first couple of games, even though I've seen how the story plays out, and I really do appreciate that style of game.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm working through Uncharted, and I got to a point where I'm really frustrated with trying to complete the puzzle because it's a combat puzzle. And you have to do it at a certain pace, otherwise you get caught, and once you get cornered, you're done. So that was a little frustrating. Dusted off my Nintendo 3DS and started playing some Xenoblade Chronicles 3D, which has been really fun. I like kind of those. I'm really kind of digging that. I've gotten through the tutorial a little bit more. I was doing that while I was watching videos render, so it seemed like a good time killer. And of course, started playing Torchlight 3, which that is a whole lot of fun and nostalgia because years ago I played Torchlight 2, and you and I spent many hours playing together.
Many hours. That's to the tip of the iceberg.
It got released. It's on Game Pass right now for Xbox. So downloaded it, started playing. I picked up the character. It's like the railroader or the engineer one. And this time it's like you start off with a giant sledgehammer, and then for your special, you can summon a train that literally follows you that has cars that you can unlock. Like I think I've unlocked the shield car last night, and I have the turret car. So it's like it follows you around. I mean, the pets are a lot more interactive and combat focused.
I have a llama named Toast.
I got a little random gift dude where the guy floats around. He's like a little goblin dealy.
Yeah.
And he like summons 2 skeletons that fight with you whenever you get in, every so often. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. And I'm having lots of fun with him because I don't want to go it alone. I have friends.
Oh, one thing about that game, which they didn't have in the other one, they have, you have your own fort.
Yes, I did unlock that. Yeah. I was a little like, wow, you could like customize your fort.
That's pretty cool.
That's really cool. I don't know. It seems like it seems kind of a gimmicky thing to me, but I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
Hey, and they had one of those things when I used to play Lord of the Rings online. They called them homesteads. You can purchase a house and just fill it up how you want.
Remember Skyrim did that Hearthstone expansion you could get for Skyrim, where you could like buy land in a bunch of places and then like build houses. So you could have like, I've got my summer home here and then I got my winter home there.
I got the expansion, but I never got to it because
It's hilarious.
yeah.
It's hilarious. You get to that point. I mean, you get a house in one place, you get a homestead in another, and can develop it up. It's really cool. I think I got to the point I had a giant attack my house and was trying to figure out how to defeat him. It was very weird. But yeah, that's the video game side of things. So we'll see how it goes. I was actually pricing out PlayStation 4s. It looks like I could get a pre-owned one from GameStop for about $280. So I might try to do that in my future. We'll see, because I want to get some PS4 time in. I got some friends who's got some multiplayer games they want to play, and it's like, cool, let me jump in on that if I can.
Oh yeah.
Still hold off on the whole, all that. But I think one of the games is Ghost of Tsushima, so I might actually get to be able to jump in on some of that bit.
Hey, they did drop that multiplayer mode, so hey, good. I'll be there with you.
Good, we'll see. But on to the D&D side of things, and I actually got a couple of things. One of the things I kind of want to spend some time chatting about, and this is probably more of a kind of a helpful, maybe just kind of a tip, or maybe a behind the curtain kind of deal. But I want to talk about how random events make great opportunities, and struggling with writer's block as a dungeon master.
It definitely happens.
So obviously, as a writer yourself, you get writer's block and you're like, okay, how do I kind of work through this? And you kind of have a stopping point. I admit I was kind of at that with one of my games recently. I really wasn't sure where to go, or it was that I have so many choices, I don't know which ones to develop. And so I was sitting there going, I was sitting there all the way up to the 11th hour going, I'm not sure what I'm going to do. So I ended up making the decision that, all right, this is collaborative storytelling, which means I'm not the only storyteller.
Nope.
All the other people at the table are storytellers, and they have sent me various things to work with. Some of them are a little fresher on my mind than others, but it was one of those things. You know what? Let's see where the players go and see if we can jump ahead of them. And ended up with the players making decisions about going and investigating a carnival. And it was like, all right, so I'm literally designing a carnival in my head at the moment. And awesome. I'm taking some of the inspiration from like, the classic Dumbo movie, or some classic Scooby-Doo, where it's like
pink elephants.
No, I didn't have pink elephants.
Oh.
I did have a gorillion though, which if you've not seen one of those, it's like a 4-armed gorilla, the large monstrosity.
Just sounds scary.
I mean, it was trying to think of like, this is kind of like a creepy carnival thing. There was a video game back in the 90s. I was trying to remember, it was a shooter one, kind of like House of the Dead, where it was this creepy carnival. And as I was thinking, it's like that was flashing in my head, and some of these other things.
I think I played that game.
Yeah, it was a really great game. Loved it. So I was trying to think of these elements, and it was like, all right, let's have this carnival. Let's, they travel around. They got some really kind of unique creatures, the kind of, that sideshow thing. But I didn't want the carnival, and I didn't want the carnival to be like happy. I wanted it to be like, it was kind of there, but there was some stuff going on in the undercurrents. Wasn't 100% sure what all the undercurrents were, but I wanted to have something there. So it was one of those things, is like, okay, I have the beginnings of an idea, and I'm working through the idea on the spot with the players. Whether or not the players realized that, I don't know, but the players had fun. So for me, the important mission was accomplished. Primary goal, players had fun. Secondary goal, I've got stuff in play to move forward and further develop. And that's kind of what we had. And where the random elements come in is toward the latter part of the session, we had somebody throw in a wandering monster. And I had started to seed a story that's going to happen to this carnival, whether the players were there or not. And the wandering monster actually added an element to that I could use for story. Now, granted, normally wandering monster means I roll on the D100 table or the character's level, and whatever environment, whatever creature it is. But in this one, I actually took that as like, you know what? I can use that as story. So let me add story. And players did not disappoint. Did not disappoint at all.
See, that's always a good thing. Sometimes you just drop the ripple and the waves come.
Yeah, and that's the big thing is I wanted to, and for me it was that jump start in creativity in trying to work through, because this time I'm actually not working off of a module. I'm literally writing this as we go, so it's complete homebrew-ish kind of deal, using some inspiration that my players have fed me about their characters, trying to weave in those backstories and just literally create these characters on the fly as we're going through this. And one of the things I was trying to do is I'm trying to think of characters that are not the typical tropes. Like if you think of a corrupted kind of carnival, you're thinking you're going to have one of the quote unquote dark races being the one in charge. Like, no, I went completely a different direction. I was like, I made it the most unlikely character that you could think of being the person who is the most intimidating to the carnival. And I think it was an interesting trope. I'm hoping it does well. The video will be released on Friday here on YouTube, so you can check it out and then tell me about it later. Another one is random moments and possible seeding. Was Saturday morning, we had a moment where random wild magic occurred and a unicorn showed up. And the unicorn showed up, and one of the players was like, I don't know what to do. I'm torn. Me as a player, no, I should not mess with this unicorn. Me as the character says, oh, I am so going to kill that. And because I'm a hunter and that's what hunters do, and all this. And it was just like,
Hey,
oh gosh.
You know, it might be a good thing to put on the wall, maybe. I don't know.
Well, it was interesting because it was like one of those, it was just like, wait, you're what? Huh?
It's how they roll, I guess.
All right, let's do this. See, thankfully, it was a very easy combat. It was 2 people in the initiative order. So it was like, did this combat, and then it was like, okay, monster I'd never really used before, thrown into the mix, and the player pretty much almost one-shotted it in the first round. And I was like, well, that sucks.
Hey, I don't know.
There was some elements I needed to... there was some elements to the creature's abilities I didn't get to use. I should have, that might have dragged it out just a hair longer. But it was like, oh, we'll go with that. But I am going to take that as an opportunity to lay a potential plot thread for later that I can develop, that I literally came up with while we were talking. And some of those moments where it's like we talk in the post session and it was like, ooh, I could use this.
Hey, sometimes it happens that way. The ripple goes on.
But the point on this is I'm saying is if you're dungeon mastering or trying to and working with players, do not feel like if you can't come up with something to do or encounters or situations for the players, don't stress on it too much. As long as you can encourage your players to interact and kind of point the direction. Because sometimes it's like, it's really intimidating because it's like, I don't know what to do. I want to have this stuff prepped up. I want to have all of these potential plot threads laid out. And it's like, maybe sometimes you should just kind of let them go and literally put down the rails or the sidewalls as they're walking. Hopefully they don't see you as you do it. Yeah, it's kind of hard to run legendary actions when the initiative order is 2.
Skadoosh.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, that was my D&D kind of thing for this week.
Sounds very eventful, especially with the unicorn showing up. So, yep.
That was so wild. That was so wild. The unicorn showing up, and he's like, as a hunter, he would hunt it. He'd never seen it, and it's like, okay. I mean, he's having fun with the character. Don't that is the ultimate thing. My players are having fun. I'm good with that in the end. And if it's one of those things, rule of cool versus rule of you really shouldn't do this, I'm going to go with rule of cool because that's what the player wants to do, and we'll see how that plays out. Now, this may come back to haunt the player later as a potential storyline. Who knows? We'll find out. Because it does say that if you kill a unicorn, then you are the subject of some form of divine retribution. How that plays out, we'll see.
Divinity has its ways in games.
We'll see. Yeah, that is. I have to develop that some more on the World Anvil and kind of work through that. But if there's a topic or question of D&D that you'd like me to kind of give some thoughts and opinions on, please leave a comment below in the video description or shoot me a message through social media. It's got the little rotator thing there. Yeah, that way. Yeah, that way. There's a rotator thing there. It kind of lists all the social where you could find us on social media.
Over there.
Or over in our Discord. Yeah, it's over there.
Over there.
Over there.
Yeah.
That way.
That way. Yeah, I got it.
I feel like the Cheshire Cat. That'd be such a cool NPC.
It could be.
It could be just the wild kind of Alice in Wonderland animated Cheshire Cat who was just, out there. Or you can check us out on the come join our Discord and shoot a message there we have a couple of channels for that, or even the Sunday was even the podcast channel, shoot those kinds of things. So had some really good ones. Yeah, I totally agree with you. Glenn pointed out, but even newbies can have great ideas that leads to great stories. So true.
Sometimes it is that with the unknown of the material, you can just be imaginative.
Yeah, especially if you have a good cast that you can play off of. And this is a real nice thing. This is, I think, one of the beautiful moments. I think this is one of the beautiful things I like Critical Role. Those guys play off of each other so well, you'd swear it was scripted.
Hey, sometimes it is that way.
Yeah. And then sometimes they just take things completely out of the rails. But yeah, it's good to see groups that you kind of have that where you can play off of each other, and I really enjoy that. But that is that. Yeah. Ooh, boy, oh boy, oh boy. Boy, oh boy, oh boy.
Sippity sip.
Gotta drink, gotta talk, gotta do those things. Oh, we're getting there.
Little by little.
We say we dive into our odds and ends. What do you say, my man?
Yeah, let's go ahead and
get some odds and ends. Oddies and endies. Bum, bum, bum.
The odds of the day and the ends of the way.
Odds and ends. Here we go. Oh, that's not the first one we're talking about. We're going to talk about that one first.
All right.
This first odds and ends is a section where we talk about various random stories we find on the internet and offer our opinions. These are our opinions, our alone. We do not they're not supported or endorsed by anyone other than ourselves. And if you like them, cool. If not, if you disagree or have a different opinion, please leave it in the comments below. Let's have a discussion. Let's feed that algorithm. You know what I mean?
I'll put the link in the chat if you want to follow along with the article.
Alrighty. So our first one is from The Verge, and that is talking about how HBO Max has hit their subscriber goal of 40 million subscribers 2 years ahead of schedule.
Yes, sir.
Now, some caveats. This is from the recent earnings report that AT&T published for their first quarter, and it takes into account that what they consider a subscriber is anyone who has downloaded the app or has purchased or has gotten the subscription through their cable provider or through some type of promotional deal, i.e., you're an AT&T customer for self-service and they give you this as part of your cell phone package. They consider that a subscriber at HBO Max. So the numbers are kind of skewed, but
yep.
We understand that because all of the streaming services do that.
Yeah,
that's how they, have their numbers. And point of comparison is like they're at 40 million.
Yeah.
Disney Plus is at 80 million. But this is also taking into account that in September, shortly after the service launched, even though it was a dismal launch because there was branding issues and all of these other things, in September, they were at 28.7 million. So only been a few months and they've just about doubled their subscription base. I'd say it's pretty good. Another thing AT&T is crediting the success of their streaming service because of their decision to co-release all of their 2021 films on HBO Max as well as in theaters. Rye, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts is this is a very great thing, and it's something that I kind of was a prognosticator of, that blending of theater and streaming a same day release, that this was going to, not only that it was because of the COVID pandemic, they were going to do the split that way, but also they found it as a way to boost up their streaming service, because HBO Max had that rocky start, but at the same time, HBO Max has a plethora of great content. So not only is this the simultaneous release is driving subscribers there, it's actually coupled with the promotional stuff, through their carriers. People are not leaving because they're realizing, hey, there's a lot of great content over here, not just the new movies that are dropping like Wonder Woman 1984, The Little Things, a couple other movies coming down the line in the next couple months like Godzilla vs. Kong and Judas and the Messiah. I think it's a great thing. It's showing the strength of what subscription base is going to be, not to mention the 86 million subscribers that you mentioned for Disney Plus, and also in another release with Netflix is close to 200. So it's just showing that the trends are moving in one direction, and that sometimes taking a risk does have a reward.
Speaking of risks and rewards, here's a risk that might be tasty or just downright weird.
Another link in the chat if you want to follow along.
Now, so if you're looking at this, this is a bowl of Kraft mac and cheese.
Yes, sir.
However, it's been colored and with an additional candy flavoring in a celebration of Valentine's Day. This is the latest product from Kraft, who has gotten on the bandwagon of sensational, gimmicky kind of stunts. They did a, what was they having here? Oh, they did a Kraft mac and cheese breakfast variant.
And also a pumpkin spice version.
Yes, I was just getting that. The pumpkin spice they released back in August or September.
Yeah.
And now they've decided to go with a candied flavor mac and cheese.
Oh, yeah. And based on this article from foodandwine.com, it's not just a candy mac and cheese. As Kraft explains, quote, Candy Kraft mac and cheese is made with the same cheesy Kraft and mac and cheese Americans know and love, but Scuba includes a candy flavor packet to turn the mac and cheese pink with a hint of sweet candy flavor. End quote.
No. No. Well, I'm sorry.
But the thing is, there is a catch with this mac and cheese.
It's only available for a limited time. I don't know if that's a bad thing or a good thing.
Oh, not just limited time. It's not. You can't purchase from your store. You have until February 8th to enter into a contest for a random drawing. The Kraft will pick 1,000 winners and ship this out to them by February 14th. Hint, Valentine's Day. So you can have some pink mac and cheese with your lovely significant other on the 14th, people.
Yeah. Again, no, not me. Not for me. Not for me. Not for me.
Maybe we can just try to.
You know what? I no.
Well, we can spend our misery somewhere else.
I know. Let's go to Egypt.
Not Egypt.
Yeah.
Wait. Oh, wrong link for me. Ha ha ha.
Don't have an image for this one, but this is an interesting thing. If you're for us science nerds, I know who you are in the chat. I know you're a science nerd. You might appreciate this, but I remember back when it was like really had that love of archaeology and they're all things coming out of archaeology and like Indiana Jones and all that fun stuff. Well, we had a recent discovery in Egypt.
Oh yeah,
And that is a version of the essentially a Necronomicon of sorts has been discovered in Egypt. This is an ancient Book of the Dead scroll that was recently recovered as part of a hoard of antiquities from a 4,000 year old funerary temple. Now, this particular Book of the Dead,
Book of the Dead, people,
is 13 feet long.
It is a big book, and I put the link in the chat. Took me a while to get it posted in there, but off of sci-fi.com. The treasure also includes over 50 wooden sarcophagi, a Senate board game, a riverboat with rowers, a statue of Osiris, wooden mask, and plenty of other ancient things from ancient Egypt. But just the fact they found a Book of the Dead is kind of awesome but creepy at the same time.
And the thing is, the book actually is supposed to be a guide for when your soul goes to the afterlife, so you know which way to go to get to the land, to get to where Osiris hangs out.
So if there's a construction on Highway Sand, you make a left on Nile West.
Pretty much. Think of this as like a really long set of directions, and even one of those really confusing maps from back in the day before we had TomTom and Google Earth and all of those GPS things that told us, hey, turn left here, but there's no road. Turn left here, but there's no road. Just do it. Or you could get the cool little sound things like have Samuel L. Jackson or Darth Vader give you directions.
Oh yeah.
Who doesn't think that's cool?
Oh yeah, it's cool, but it is interesting to see when you can find a lot of these historical stuff, and actually it helps to add more knowledge to what happened before. Side note, it predates the coffins by at least 8 centuries of all the other stuff they found, so that's pretty cool. But speaking of historic,
speaking of something historic.
Oh, come on, Lynx.
Alrighty, what we have here. Now, for all of our friends across the pond, you might be familiar with this, but for some of us who are fans of literary stuff.
I got the link in there, Scoob.
You got the link in there. All right, this is a picture of the Lamb and Flag pub. This particular pub was first opened 450 years ago.
1566 to be exact, Scoob.
Yep. And then it moved to the location we're seeing here, which is on St. Giles, which is kind of a major thoroughfare, back in 1613. This particular pub actually closed January 31st. Now, why are we caring about a 450-year-old pub that closed? Aside from the fact, hey, it's a 450-year-old pub. That's cool.
Yeah.
No TV, no jukebox, no nothing. You came in there, you sat, and you talked. But some of the other interesting bits of note for this happened to be a frequent hangout for a certain J.R.R. Tolkien and a certain C.S. Lewis of Lord of the Rings and Chronicles of Narnia, respectively.
Oh, yeah.
They used to hang out here. Also, this particular pub was owned by St. John's College, which, if you're not familiar with, St. John's is one of the 45 colleges and private halls that make up the University of Oxford.
Yeah.
And that profits from this little establishment actually funded scholarships for grad students. Unfortunately, due to many other things, the pandemic has rained major catastrophe on this, to where the pub was no longer deemed profitable. So its doors were closed on January 31st. I'm kind of bummed by this.
It sounded like a good kind of a bucket list item to do, especially if anybody that wanted to tour over on the UK side. And it is kind of sad to see that the tragedy that happens with the pandemic. No matter how famous or how long you've been going, like this thing has been there forever in a day. Some things just don't last. And to add another side note, It's named after symbols traditionally associated with Saint John the Baptist.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Alrighty. And we got our last story for tonight is a feel-good kind of dealie.
Okay. Come on. That's what happens with YouTube chats.
And this is something really kind of cool. Let me see if I can get this to work up here.
I'll put the link in the chat, and there you go.
Let's work. Yeah, it'll work. Ooh. Look, let me.
Awesome. But while Scuba's getting to work, you know, it's been snowing a lot lately, and sometimes people like to have fun in the snow. Well, instead of people, these are actually animals. And speaking of animals, these were penguins at the St. Louis Zoo. They decided, hey, why don't we make a fun-filled trip over to our neighbors' places and visit our friendly polar bears and grizzly bears. And as you can see on the screen, we have a video of the penguins making the trip in the zoo to visit their friends. You have the king penguins, Ethel and Elliot, leading a group of young penguins by CJ, Oshi, Linus, Sunny Double, and Trouble.
The idea was is they got to go out and go visit the bears.
Yeah.
They walk. Now, typically their enclosure is completely indoors.
Yes.
So as part of this kind of enrichment program, so to speak, it was let them kind of wander out, and they wandered and got them to wander over to the bear pens, specifically the polar bear and grizzly bears, and they willingly walked up to the to the enclosure and kind of were just hanging out.
Yes, sir. They were like, hey, what's up, bud? Hey, what's up, bud? Pretty much.
So, I mean, granted, this is one of those things, these species do not interact naturally because penguins are in Antarctica and polar bears are in the Arctic. So, but this is kind of just one of those, this is really kind of fun. This is kind of, you know, even the animals can enjoy visiting other animals in the zoo. So,
It's the fun-filled winter wonderland in St. Louis Zoo.
Oh, yeah.
So, if you want to check them out, let's go to St. Louis. Road trip.
That was cool.
Oh, yeah. Very chill. It actually brings a smile to my face in the snow.
I'm glad it does, because it's a good thing to, you know, to have kind of those feel-good things. You know, winter isn't entirely bad.
No, it isn't.
But with that, that wraps up our hangout for this week. Thank you everyone for hanging out in the chat with us. Thank you for watching this video, sticking around to the end. We really appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you.
If you enjoy the content you're seeing, please be sure to hit the like button. And if you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe. Hit the little bell notification to be notified when new videos come out. I've got last week's D&D episodes are going to show up on Friday. Free to check out. But if you want early access, consider going over to patreon.com/scuba studio and consider joining as a patron there. Being a patron is the best way to support the channel and support the studio so we can continue to develop and further bring content to you. Schedule of events, we have Saturday morning 10 a.m. is Shadow Watch, live D&D game that is currently still being streamed over on twitch.tv/scuba studio. Join myself and a wonderful cast of characters as we traverse through the Underdark to find an ancient set of relics and maybe find another unicorn to kill, because maybe he found a way to make your unicorn meat taste good on the spit. Who knows?
Replication is possible.
That's true. And then Saturday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, again, over on twitch.tv/scuba studio, you can watch Challenge Accepted. We are in our third season. The cast is at the carnival. Some marrow have crept out from the nearby coastline and started to attack the carnival. We will see what our characters do to potentially intervene or not. And all the fun there. And then, of course, Sunday morning, 12 p.m. Eastern, back here on YouTube, I do a live stream where we hang out. I talk with people in Discord. All of my cast are welcome to jump in and kind of do Q&A. We do Q&A with the chat. And as I paint some miniatures live right there, I literally come up with the color design as I'm doing it, because I'm working on my painting ability, and I'm allowing you to partake in the journey with me.
Yes, sir.
If you grab your coffee and hang out for that. Big shout out for Stream Beats, which is the music we've been hearing in the background. It's DRM free music that you can use for your videos and streams. And with that, thank you to the moderators. Thank you to the chat. Thank you to the community. You all are awesome, wonderful, wonderful human beings, and wish you a very safe and happy week. And we will see you on our next stream. Goodbye, everybody.
Peace.
Yeah, there's the schedule and all that other fun stuff, because yeah, that's really cool.
There is the shows.
And a thank you to our patrons. You got if you're a $5 patron or higher, you get your name listed here on the stream at the end. And you want to get your name up there, go to Patreon, like I said. With that, I'm gonna, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna play more video games or D&D. We're gonna have some fun. We'll find out later.
I'll do the same and sleep.
Yeah.
Work comes early.